On the night of February 1st, 1959, something terrifying happened in the frozen Ural mountains of the Soviet Union. 9 experienced hikers suddenly abandoned their tent in the middle of a brutal winter night. They cut their way out from inside the tent. They left behind their boots. They left behind their coats. And they walked into the darkness. Weeks later, all 9 would be found dead. More than 60 years later, nobody knows exactly what happened. This is the story of the Dyatlov Pass Incident. The expedition was led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, an experienced engineering student and skilled mountaineer from the Ural Polytechnic Institute. The group consisted of young men and women who were considered highly capable and well-trained. These were not inexperienced adventurers. They had completed difficult winter expeditions before and understood the dangers of the mountains. In January 1959, the group began a challenging journey through the northern Ural Mountains. Their goal was to reach Mount Otorten, one of the most remote and isolated regions of the Soviet Union. Originally, there were 10 members. However, one participant, named Yuri Yudin, became ill during the early stages of the expedition. Unable to continue, he returned home. At the time, he believed he was simply unlucky. In reality, that decision saved his life. Yuri Yudin would become the only member of the expedition to survive. The remaining 9 hikers continued deeper into the wilderness. As they traveled farther from civilization, conditions became increasingly difficult. Snowstorms reduced visibility. Temperatures dropped far below freezing. Strong winds swept across the mountains. Yet the group pressed forward. Recovered photographs show them smiling, joking, and enjoying the journey. Nothing appeared unusual. Then came February 1st. The hikers reached the eastern slope of a mountain known as Kholat Syakhl. The name comes from the language of the indigenous Mansi people and is often translated as Dead Mountain. Instead of descending into a nearby forest for shelter, the group decided to establish camp on the exposed mountainside. Some researchers later questioned this decision. The forest would have offered protection from the wind. Instead, the hikers remained on the open slope. As darkness fell, temperatures continued to drop. The group settled into their tent for the night. It would be the last night of their lives. What happened next remains one of history's greatest mysteries. When the group failed to return on schedule, concern began to grow. Days passed without any communication. Eventually, rescue teams were organized. On February 26th, searchers discovered the campsite. What they found was deeply disturbing. The tent was still standing. Food remained inside. Personal belongings remained inside. Their boots were there. Their winter clothing was there. Yet the tent had been cut open from the inside. It appeared that the hikers had escaped in a desperate hurry. Outside the tent, investigators discovered footprints leading away from the campsite. The tracks suggested that the hikers had walked rather than run, but they had done so with little clothing, despite temperatures approaching -30 degrees Celsius. Following the footprints, rescuers made another shocking discovery. Near a large cedar tree, approximately 1.5 kilometers from the tent, they found the first 2 bodies. The men were wearing only underwear. Nearby were the remains of a small fire. It seemed they had desperately attempted to survive the freezing night. Investigators also discovered something unusual. Several branches of the cedar tree had been broken as high as 5 meters above the ground. This suggested that one of the hikers may have climbed the tree, possibly attempting to locate the tent or search for help. A few hundred meters away, 3 more bodies were discovered. Among them was Igor Dyatlov himself. The positions of the bodies suggested they may have been trying to return to the campsite, but they never made it. Months later, after snow began to melt, searchers located the remaining 4 hikers beneath deep snow. Their condition raised even more questions. Several had suffered severe injuries, broken ribs, skull fractures, massive internal trauma. Investigators compared some of these injuries to the force experienced during a major car accident. Yet, there was very little external damage. This was one of the most puzzling aspects of the case. One victim, Lyudmila Dubinina, was missing her tongue. Others showed injuries that investigators struggled to explain. The mystery only deepened. As investigators examined the scene more closely, another strange detail emerged. Some of the victims were wearing clothing that belonged to other members of the group. This suggested that after some hikers died, the survivors removed clothing from the bodies in a desperate attempt to stay warm. But despite these efforts, none survived. Then came one of the most controversial discoveries. Tests revealed unusually high levels of radiation on some pieces of clothing recovered from the victims. The source of the radiation has never been fully explained. This discovery fueled decades of speculation. Many began to wonder whether the hikers had encountered secret military activity. The timing added even more mystery. Several witnesses reported seeing strange orange lights in the sky around the time of the incident. Some described glowing spheres moving silently across the night sky. Although no direct connection was ever proven, these reports helped create theories involving military experiments, classified technology, and even UFOs. The Soviet investigation eventually reached a vague conclusion. According to official reports, the hikers died because of an unknown, compelling force. No clear explanation was provided. The case was closed. The area was restricted, and for decades, information remained limited. As expected, theories quickly emerged. One of the most popular explanations involves an avalanche. Supporters argue that shifting snow above the campsite may have threatened the tent, causing the hikers to flee. Recent computer simulations have suggested that a delayed slab avalanche could explain some aspects of the incident. However, critics point out several problems. The slope was relatively gentle, the tent remained largely intact, and evidence of a major avalanche was limited. Another theory involves military testing. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union frequently conducted secret experiments in remote regions. Could the hikers have accidentally witnessed a classified weapons test? Some researchers believe this may explain the strange lights, the radiation, and the government's secrecy. Yet, no definitive evidence has ever been found. Other theories are even more unusual. UFO encounters, secret government operations, unknown creatures. While these explanations remain popular online, none are supported by convincing evidence. Today, many experts favor a combination of natural factors, extreme weather, powerful winds, poor visibility, hypothermia, and human decision-making under stress. One modern theory suggests that powerful katabatic winds may have created terrifying conditions around the campsite, convincing the hikers that immediate evacuation was necessary. Yet, even this explanation leaves important questions unanswered. Why did all 9 hikers leave the tent? Why were some found nearly barefoot? What caused the severe injuries suffered by several members of the group? Why was radiation found on some clothing? And what were the mysterious lights reported in the sky? Perhaps the most haunting aspect of the Dyatlov Pass incident is that there were no surviving witnesses. Only Yuri Yudin, the man who turned back before reaching the mountains, lived to tell the story. For the rest of his life, he searched for answers. Until his death in 2013, he continued wondering what happened to his friends. Today, the winds still sweep across the Ural mountains. The snow still covers the slopes of Kholat-Syakhl, and the mystery remains. More than 6 decades later, the Dyatlov Pass incident continues to fascinate historians, investigators, and millions of people around the world. Perhaps one day, the truth will finally emerge. Or perhaps the frozen mountains will keep their secrets forever. What do you think happened on that cold winter night in 1959? If you're curious about more mysterious events, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. See you in the next video.